Would you like to come inside and warm up? Despite living in extreme poverty, one day I extended a helping hand to a homeless mother and her daughter in the park. Although I could barely get by myself, I don't know why I did such a thing. Then, the president of the company I worked for suddenly passed away, and his younger brother, the vice president, became the new president. For some reason, I got fired and was left feeling hopeless. However, when I got home, the daughter greeted me with a sly smile, saying, "Welcome back. You've worked hard." My name is Alex. I'm a 29-year-old single office worker. My friends from school call me Lex. I think it's a cool nickname, but I'm not particularly cool myself. I look pretty ordinary, or maybe below average, with glasses and black hair that give me a gloomy image. I can be considerate of others, but I don't actively engage with people. Above all, I'm poor. As you can tell from my living conditions, I think my place is worse than a poor college student's. I live in a shabby apartment with rent costing only $130. The apartment technically has 2 rooms, but since there's no wall separating them, it's practically a one-room. The bathroom and toilet are separate, but that's just because it's an old building. The kitchen is tiny, the floor is old, and the walls dividing the rooms are thin. While it's not like you can hear every sound, even slightly loud voices can be heard clearly. Privacy is virtually non-existent. Right now, I can hear a couple arguing next door. It's not just arguments, sometimes I hear their intimate moments, which makes it unbearable. Besides the noise from the neighbors, I can also hear the sounds of illegally modified bikes and loud music from open windows outside. So, during these noisy times, I vent my work stress in my room. I don't scream or shout, but speaking bitterly to myself at a normal speaking volume helps me feel a bit better. Expressing pent-up stress verbally helps lighten my mood a bit. Some people say writing it down is helpful, but I find speaking it out loud more satisfying. It's free and just saying it changes my mood enough. With the loud noises, my neighbors probably don't even notice, and since I'm not shouting, it doesn't bother anyone. But there's a topic that inevitably comes up at my age. It's what people call the marriageable age. Sure, I'd like to have a girlfriend. It's not something to brag about, but I've never had a girlfriend in my 29 years. Some of my classmates already have kids. But right now, I can't afford to have a girlfriend. Even if I did, I don't have the financial means to support her. The reason I'm living in such poverty is because of my student loan debt. And with my salary barely increasing, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. With just enough to support myself, starting a family feels like a distant dream. Even though I'm struggling, I'm known as a diligent worker who gets the job done at the company. One day, I arrived at work to find a group of employees talking. Wondering what was going on, my colleague James hurried over to me. "Alex, there's been an incident." "An incident?" I thought someone might have committed embezzlement, but that wasn't it. The president passed away suddenly. What? But he was fine just yesterday. That's why it's a sudden death. The president, Mr. Bellamy, was a dapper gentleman with a distinguished look. He always walked with a straight posture, looking sharp in his suit, and seemed like a hard-working man. I'd seen him around the office several times, always looking sharp and steady on his feet, making everyone believe the company was still secure. So, we all thought the company was in good hands. Who do you think will be the next president? Well, it's probably going to be him, based on the hierarchy. Him? The person James referred to, him, was the president's younger brother, Robert. Robert occasionally came to the office, but neither I nor the other employees had a favorable impression of him. Why is he even the vice president? Because Mr. Bellamy was kind-hearted and couldn't abandon his family. But still, does he even do any work? This question left me at a loss for words. Ultimately, Robert was appointed as the new president. It made sense, they couldn't leave the president's seat vacant forever. If that happened, other companies might look down on us, and some might even try to take advantage of the situation. Even so, we were filled with anxiety knowing that Robert would now be running the company. This was because Robert had hardly been involved in the company's operations until now. I doubt he even understood how the company functioned. Normally, if you're going to become the president, you'd at least study management, even if only superficially. Our company may not be huge, but it still had a fair number of employees. Supporting all their families requires a serious commitment. Even though he held the title of vice president, Robert didn't actually do any work. Apparently, other employees had seen him frequently engaging in gambling. These activities might be fun when you're winning, but they cause significant losses when you lose. And once you've experienced a big win, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, next time for sure, and keep pouring money in, ending up in a downward spiral. Knowing that Robert, who had been doing such things, was the new president made us very uneasy. But there were more reasons to be worried about Robert. Oh man, I'm only feeling dread. James? I mean, there are rumors he messed up at his previous company too. Messed up? You mean he had trouble with his boss? Exactly. This was a well-known story. Robert was known for his temper and had gotten into trouble with his boss at the company he worked for before this one. And this happened just 6 months after he joined. At first, I couldn't believe it. These days, people usually brace themselves to endure the first year at a new company. Quitting after just 6 months seemed incredibly selfish. And then Mr. Bellamy, who was kind, gave his poor brother the vice president's seat. But he probably tried to make him work, too. Even if he made him do vice president's work, it wouldn't have been much good. Yeah, true. I hope he becomes a bit more responsible now that he's president. James's hope was unlikely to come true. People don't change that easily. Up until now, Emma from accounting had been handling most of the company matters. Emma was well known but shrouded in mystery. None of us had ever seen her or knew what she looked like. However, it was also well known that the former president had immense trust in her. She was always holed up in the accounting room, practically a legendary figure we never saw. I had only ever spoken to her over the phone. With Robert taking over as president, I wondered what would happen to Emma, but there was nothing I could do as just an employee. However, my worries soon became reality. Robert's policies, announced during his first address as the new president, left us all in shock. I'm the new president, Robert. I don't know how my brother ran things, but now that I'm in charge, there will be no more leniency. Anyone who doesn't follow my policies will be fired without mercy. It was an arrogant and high-handed speech, and the longtime employees clicked their tongues and muttered things like, "Stupid brother." From now on, every morning meeting will include a numerical target. Anyone who doesn't meet it will face a pay cut. Work hard and be prepared. Although I didn't say it out loud, I screamed "what" in my mind. Setting goals is fine, but reducing pay for not meeting them is sheer tyranny. Listen up. Speed, judgment, and decisiveness are essential in work. Don't drag your feet and try to rack up overtime pay. That's easy for him to say, but there are often situations where overtime is unavoidable. That's just how the workplace is. But perhaps because he was clueless about actual work, Robert would yell at the top of his lungs if the work was even slightly delayed, making him unbelievably unreasonable. Because of this, my stress was building up every day, but I just endured it. That day, after working all day, I declined an invitation to a drink with my colleagues and headed straight to the cheap supermarket near my apartment. This supermarket always had great deals for the local poor students, but just before closing time, they added extra discount stickers. Perhaps it's the supermarket's way of ensuring they sell all their prepared foods by the end of the day. But I didn't hesitate to put several heavily discounted prepared meals into my basket. I also bought a salad marked down by 80% and left the store. Swinging the plastic bag I used as a reusable shopping bag that was about to get holes from overuse, I headed home. On the way back, my attention was drawn to 2 women huddled together on a bench in a small, dark park. At this late at night? If it had just been 2 women talking in the park, I would have ignored it. But something about them seemed off, so I stopped and stared at them. The 2 women looked like they were mother and daughter, judging by their similar faces. It was around 10 p.m. Moreover, they were very lightly dressed for this season and looked quite dirty. I slowly entered the park and pretended to buy a warm drink from the vending machine near them, listening to their conversation. "Mom, I'm cold." "It's okay. Just snuggle up closer." "Thanks, it's much better now." From that exchange, I was sure they were mother and daughter. The mother looked to be in her early 50s, and the daughter around 20. What happened to them? Their clothes are dirty, but they're wearing branded stuff. I recalled the morning weather forecast I saw on the news. They said it wouldn't rain, but it would get quite cold tonight. These two were complete strangers to me. No one would blame me if I walked away. But my sense of justice wouldn't let me ignore them now that I'd seen them. Still, I wasn't sure if it was okay to approach them. I didn't want to be mistaken for a criminal trying to take women to my place. But I couldn't just abandon them either. Oh well, here goes nothing. I made up my mind and approached the mother and daughter. Sorry, I'm not a suspicious person. I have no intention of doing anything to you. This might be a bit presumptuous, but according to the news, it's supposed to get very cold tonight. I know I'm a complete stranger, but if you don't have anywhere to go, would you like to come to my place? It's a shabby apartment, but at least you can warm up. What? All I can offer is a warm bath, but I promise I won't do anything. I swear. If you want, I'll even leave the room. I just don't think it's good for women to be out in the cold, so please, calm down. My words were becoming incoherent, and the woman had to calm me down. Right. Sorry. Why did you approach us? As you can see, we're homeless with nowhere to go. Well, isn't it natural to help someone in need? What? Of course, if you think it's none of my business, I apologize. But no, it's not that. Then please, come with me. I can't offer much, but at least you can get warm. I desperately invited the mother and daughter to my shabby apartment. They seemed surprised by the place they were brought to, but I offered them the back room and let them use the bath. Since I didn't have any women's clothes, I gave them an old tracksuit from my school days. I've washed it, though it might smell a bit like mothballs. It's fine. You've already done so much for us. For food, all I have is instant noodles and some prepared meals. But that's your meal, isn't it? Yes, so let's share it. While waiting for the two of them to finish their bath, I heated up the prepared meals and made 2 packets of instant noodles, dividing them into bowls and plates. All the dishes in my poor bachelor's home were mismatched. It was a bit embarrassing, but there was nothing I could do. I was genuinely glad I had saved some unused spoons and forks. I'm sorry. I invited you so confidently, but this is all I can offer. No worries. We appreciate it. They shook their heads at my apology. Their kindness made me feel happy. After the 3 of us had our modest meal and finished eating, they introduced themselves. My name is Emma, and this is my daughter, Catherine. It's been a long time since we've had a warm bath and meal. I'm Alex. Alex, you're kind and full of justice, aren't you? Emma smiled as she said this. No, I'm just poor. But you helped us. Most people would just walk away, especially if they were struggling themselves. And I'm sure you had your reservations about inviting women into your home. It's true, I had many doubts. In this world, there are many people who would take advantage of kindness. However, Emma and Catherine didn't seem like those kinds of people. If you have nowhere else to go, please stay here. But it reassures me to see a light on when I come home from work. It's a shabby apartment, so I won't force you, but if it's not too much trouble. It's a small, old place, but it can at least shelter you from the weather. If I told James about this, he'd probably laugh and say I was too nice. Still, I couldn't bring myself to kick them out after just one day. You know, it's like finding a stray cat. Then feeling the heartache of having to abandon it again because you can't keep it. Emma and Catherine exchanged glances, thought for a moment, then looked at me and said, "We'll accept your hospitality," and smiled in relief. As planned, I gave them the back room and hung a bath towel in the gap of the thin partition to ensure privacy. I laid out cushions in the kitchenette space and slept there. I gave the folding bed and mattress to the 2 women, and that night passed. The next morning, Emma left early, saying she had some errands. I couldn't say anything if she was going out to find somewhere else to stay, not wanting to be a burden on my shabby apartment. However, Emma did not return that day, nor the next, nor the day after. So, effectively, it was just Catherine and me living in the apartment, and I felt a strange sense of contentment with this new arrangement. After all, I used to come back to a shabby, cold, and lonely room, but now I can return to a warm, lit room. It's needless to say that I started looking forward to coming home after work. Hi, Alex. I'm back. Catherine greeted me with a smile when I returned, and I smiled back. Catherine would cook delicious meals in the tiny kitchen. There weren't many ingredients in the fridge, so I'd pick up what seemed necessary from the usual discount supermarket on my way home. And she'd turn it into a meal. To me, it felt like magic. Having someone waiting for me when I got home became a turning point for me. Meeting Catherine made me realize the importance of people helping each other. A few days after, it became normal for Catherine to be waiting for me when I got home. I was more surprised than ever when I arrived at work. What the hell is this? There was a piece of paper on my desk. No matter how many times I rubbed my eyes or washed my face, the words on it didn't change. It was a termination notice. No way. With Catherine now living with me, I needed to earn even more money, but if I got fired, we'd both end up homeless. Unable to accept this one-sided termination, I went straight to the president's office. I knocked twice loudly and opened the door without waiting for a response to find Robert sighing deeply. "Robert. It's you too. What a pain." "What?" I didn't understand his response, but I asked him about my purpose for being there. "Robert, what is the meaning of this?" "I don't know. But isn't this termination notice from you?" I slapped the termination notice on his desk, and Robert, looking annoyed, threw a few other termination notices onto his desk. "You're the fifth person today." "What?" "Yeah, 4 other employees have come barging in with termination notices like this. I don't remember issuing any of them." "Is that true? What good would it do me to lie?" Robert answered irritably, and I frowned. Firing me wouldn't benefit Robert. But then, who was issuing these termination notices to the employees? I had never caused any major problems, nor had I been hated or resented by anyone. Well, this is real, though. "What?" While I was still in shock, Robert picked up the termination notice with my name on it from the desk. And before I could stop him, he stamped it with his approval. "Wait, please." "No waiting. This is an official termination notice. Get your things and leave the company. Someone among the executives is probably culling the useless ones." With that, Robert shooed me out of the office like I was an animal. Returning to my desk, I saw that James also had a termination notice and was quite upset. However, since Robert became president, James had been considering a job change and saw this as a good opportunity, laughing about it. I envied James's optimistic personality as I packed up my desk. When I got home, Catherine greeted me as usual. "Oh, hi. You're early today." Catherine welcomed me with a gentle smile, and I forced a smile as I told her everything that had happened. "Actually, I got fired today." Instead of being surprised, Catherine gave a sly smile. Startled by her reaction, I followed her to the folding table she called a dining table, where she poured me a cup of hot coffee. Taking a sip of the coffee helped calm my nerves a bit. "First, thank you for your hard work." "No, it's..." I knew I needed to start thinking about the future instead of wasting time, but Catherine began to speak. "First, let me reintroduce myself. My name is Catherine Bellamy. Does that ring any bells?" "What?" "My last name is Bellamy. My father's name was Samuel Bellamy." "What?" "Yes, my father was the former president of the company you worked for." I couldn't hide my astonishment at Catherine's words. More than anything, I couldn't understand how I hadn't realized it sooner. It's not like there are many people around with the last name Bellamy. After my father passed away, my uncle Robert kicked my mother and me out of our home. We became homeless. He took all our savings and everything else and stayed in that house. I knew he was a jerk, but I didn't realize he was that bad. I'm sorry. After all, Robert was still Catherine's uncle. Calling him a jerk repeatedly wouldn't make her feel good. It's fine. He is a jerk of the highest order. King of jerks. I couldn't help but chuckle at that remarkable evaluation. The day you found us, it had been a week since we were kicked out. We were really at our wits' end. That's why my mother and I feel a debt of gratitude to you that we can't hide. That's thanks to you, Alex, we've decided to take revenge on Robert. Revenge? He might not know, but I inherited shares from my father. Shares? And he doesn't even realize who my mother is. The fact that she wasn't fired first proves it. I didn't fully understand what Catherine was saying. What did she mean by Emma being fired? Emma, the one doing the accounting at the company, is my mother. What? No way. I couldn't help but raise my voice. Even though my parents divorced, my father had complete trust in my mother's accounting skills. They didn't work out as a couple, but they were great business partners. I remembered hearing rumors about that. Emma, who was trusted by Mr. Bellamy, was also highly regarded by the bosses. They used to say, as long as Emma is handling the accounting, the company will be fine. It's likely that Emma didn't want anyone to know she was handling the accounting for her ex-husband and thus stayed hidden in the accounting room. Also, given their divorce, she probably wanted to avoid any unnecessary complications. In the past few days, my mother has made all the arrangements. She's been laying off employees one by one to liquidate the company without Robert noticing. Now that you mention it. Thinking back, there were certainly signs. Robert had said I was the fifth person to receive a termination notice that day. Judging by his attitude, he must have received termination notices from several other employees too. My mother plans to rehire everyone she laid off once the new business is set up. What? I hold the shares. Robert has no right to run the company. Catherine smiled, exuding the confidence of a leader. I had thought of her as a sweet woman, but she turned out to be someone truly remarkable. A few days after this conversation, there was a commotion at the company. What? You're firing me? This is ridiculous. During a meeting held that day, the board of directors unanimously decided to dismiss Robert. Once decided by the board, it couldn't be overturned. Robert, you have two choices: work under me or find a new job yourself. So, what will it be? What? As I recall, your philosophy was about speed, judgment, and decisiveness, right? Hurry up and decide. Under Catherine's pressure, Robert declared his resignation from the company on the spot. He must have hated the idea of working under his niece, especially since he had been at the top of the company just the day before. He's a real pain, with pride in all the wrong places. However, Robert couldn't find a new job and ended up struggling. Feeling sorry for him, Catherine reluctantly decided to keep him at the company as a handyman. Catherine, you're so kind. I think I'm a fool, too, but maybe I took after my father. Maybe I'll end up regretting it too. Catherine smiled, shining brightly. As for Catherine and me, living together in the same room eventually led to us becoming a couple. In short, Catherine and I are now in a relationship. I finally broke my streak of having no girlfriend my entire life. I was so happy I could have danced with joy. I considered moving to a bigger place, but Catherine said she was fine with staying in this apartment. She said she enjoyed the closeness and warmth it provided. Our life isn't exactly luxurious, but as long as we support each other, we'll find our way. I believe that, and I plan to continue living with her from now on. The woman I met at the mixer I was forced to attend was an unexpectedly successful doctor. However, due to her lack of experience and confidence, she froze in an emergency situation. I discreetly gave her a lot of advice while we worked together to provide first aid to a suddenly ill person. As a fellow doctor, I decided to let her take the credit for the treatment so she wouldn't disappoint her friends. My name is Kent. I'm a 32-year-old emergency physician. Despite my age, I have no romantic stories to share. Of course, I've had relationships, but because I always prioritized work, many women I dated broke up with me, saying I didn't pay enough attention to them. I haven't dated a lot of women, but all my ex-girlfriends would ask me, which is more important, me or your job? They were always jealous of my job. To me, both are important. My job is not only for myself but also primarily for my patients. I work hard because there are lives I want to save. I want to help lives, treat injuries quickly and effectively, and minimize any long-term effects. As a doctor who can save lives, I always want to prioritize my patients' lives above all else. It's also my identity. And leisure time or time with a girlfriend is equally important. It's not a matter of which is more important. Both are important. It's just that the amount of time I can spend on each is different. If someone asked you which is more important, sleep or food, you'd be troubled. Most people would say both are important. If you then get asked, you spend 8 hours a day sleeping but only 3 hours eating. So does that mean sleep is more important and food is irrelevant? You'd be puzzled. Both are indispensable. Similarly, as an emergency physician, my job is more urgent, and time with my girlfriend can be flexible. Even after explaining this, my girlfriends wouldn't understand and would eventually leave me with remarks like, "Why don't you marry your job?" I often lamented the lack of people who shared my values. In my late 20s, I realized that I was a workaholic, not suited for relationships. I finally understood that trying to date was futile. At first, I felt some anxiety and emptiness seeing my peers getting married and having kids, but now I'm completely at peace with it. Most people around me manage to balance work and family. So, I realized that I might indeed be the workaholic my ex-girlfriends claimed. Given that, dedicating myself entirely to my work isn't so bad. Since then, I've been striving daily to save more patients and minimize their long-term effects through work and study. My family is very free-spirited, so they never pressure me about marriage. Unlike my single friends, who often hear, "When are you getting married?" or "I want to see grandkids," or "Do you have a girlfriend?" or "Do you plan to get married?" from their parents and relatives, my family never asks. I've never heard such comments even once. I don't remember ever being asked about carrying on the family line. I feel grateful for this supportive environment and focus solely on becoming a competent doctor as soon as possible. Then one day, a high school friend invited me to a mixer. I wasn't interested and was about to decline, but my friend pleaded, saying they desperately needed one more person, so I reluctantly agreed. I look average, and in school, I had girlfriends mainly because I did well academically. Since it was just to make up the numbers, I decided to leave after the first round and dressed casually yet neatly before heading to the meeting place. "Hey, everyone, long time no see." I seemed to be the last one to arrive, and seeing my friends again made me smile. It had been a while since I saw my friends due to our busy adult lives. Although reluctant at first, I was glad I came, enjoying the reunion with my friends. On the way to the reserved restaurant, we reminisced and shared updates, feeling like we were back in our school days. Despite being in our 30s, only our appearances, environments, and titles had changed, not our personalities. As a child, I thought people in their 30s were fully grown adults, but now that I'm one, I realize we still have our childish and flawed sides, making us quite normal. A warm atmosphere filled the room. I was having such a good time that I almost forgot the main event was a mixer. The venue was a slightly fancy place where we could drink. If it had been just a men's reunion, a casual standing bar would have been fine, but since it was a mixer, we chose a more stylish spot. We were seated and waited a few minutes for the women to arrive. As the women entered and greeted us, my friends suddenly tensed up. Remembering how everyone had prayed for a good match when we walked in, I silently cheered them on. We ordered drinks, made a toast, and started the introductions. "Kent, nice to meet you. I work at a company." With the help of my friends, I introduced myself with a different job. There was no deep meaning behind it, but saying I was a doctor often led to a barrage of questions, which was bothersome. Many women are attracted solely to the title. I didn't like that kind of encounter. "Nice to meet you. I'm Rachel. I'm an internist." To my surprise, she was a fellow doctor. The quiet-looking woman ordered a non-alcoholic drink and placed her phone face up on the table. Since I do the same for emergencies, I knew Rachel wasn't lying about being a doctor. Although my friends suggested I drink since it was a special occasion, I just laughed it off. Rachel became the center of attention as soon as she mentioned she was a doctor and was bombarded with questions. "Even though I'm an internist, I'm still quite inexperienced," she answered humbly. Rachel's friends seemed proud to have a doctor friend, boasting about her like parents bragging about their child's profession. Rachel looked troubled each time and responded modestly. Although I'm also a doctor, I refrain from mentioning it in such settings since I'm not yet confident in my skills. Rachel seemed like someone who couldn't lie, a straightforward person. I felt a bit sympathetic seeing her uncomfortable smile as her friends proudly called her a doctor. My friends seemed attracted to Rachel, focusing their attention on her. Rachel was beautiful, kind, and gave off a delicate impression. Despite the attention and praise from her friends, she remained humble and modest. Her humility only added to her appeal. I didn't feel attracted to her as a romantic interest, but I felt a sense of kinship as a fellow doctor. After all, my workplace had many young, assertive female doctors with high standards, often looking down on nurses and administrative staff. Pride in being a doctor was common, and they often treated others condescendingly. I graduated from a regional public medical college, but my current workplace was affiliated with a private medical college, which meant many young female doctors. Their conversations often left me baffled, with values clearly incompatible with mine. Our perspectives on relationships, finances, and ethics rarely aligned. I often distanced myself from them based on their behavior and attitudes. Many came from wealthy backgrounds, making their values the workplace norm, which felt uncomfortable for someone from an ordinary family like me. I didn't get along well with such women. But Rachel didn't give off any of those vibes. As we relaxed and got to know each other better, the atmosphere became lively. Suddenly, the restaurant became noisy. What's happening? What's wrong? I'll get someone. A panicked staff member and a man collapsed just beyond the open door. I immediately stood up and went to the man. I told the staff that I was a doctor. The collapsed man was the manager, Mark. He was foaming at the mouth. His body kept shaking and stiffening, which made me suspect it was a seizure disorder, but it could also be a brain issue. Given this assessment, I instructed someone to call an ambulance. Behind me, Rachel, pushed by our group, nervously approached. She looked pale and her eyes were darting around. It was clear she wasn't used to such situations, her hands were trembling. Rachel seemed on the verge of panic, unable to make decisions quickly. It's okay. I'm actually a doctor too, an ER physician. I'm used to these situations. Let's first change the patient's position to make him more comfortable, I whispered to her. Rachel, surprised, and followed my instructions to adjust Mark's position. We loosened his clothes to relieve any pressure, and I asked the staff to bring a blanket to keep him warm. Fortunately, it didn't seem like he hit anything when he fell, and he was still breathing. So basic first aid was sufficient while we waited for the ambulance. Emergency situations outside the hospital are always challenging, no matter how many times you experience them. It's a relief it wasn't more serious, I told Rachel. I saw Rachel looking down, frustration clear on her face. I couldn't do anything, she said quietly, tears starting to fall. From our earlier conversation, it seemed she worked at a major college hospital, but her age suggested she was still relatively inexperienced. Graduating at the top of her class, Rachel was burdened with high expectations from those around her. Even while treating Mark, she was shaking, clearly stressed about meeting everyone's expectations. Even though saving lives is what matters, trying to meet everyone's expectations is not what I believe in. I think saving lives is more important than living up to others' expectations. However, I understand that it's not entirely Rachel's fault that she feels this way. I'm not interested in my title, and I rarely talk about it. Because of this, I sometimes hear, "Oh, I forgot Kent is also a doctor," which is quite rude. I avoid revealing that I'm a doctor to escape the burden of titles and labels. This allows me to focus solely on what's most important, saving patients' lives. Rachel and I are quite the opposite. Yet, seeing her cry in frustration moved me deeply. I went through a similar phase myself. When I first became a doctor, the weight and responsibility of the title were overwhelming, and I often felt crushed by the pressure. Realizing that my decisions could change a patient's life terrified me. Being called doctor and entrusted with someone's life sometimes made me want to look away. Watching Rachel, I remembered those feelings and understood how deeply painful that frustration can be. Rachel, you were amazing. Really impressive, Rachel. You're a genius. After Mark was taken away by the ambulance, Rachel's friends showered her with praise. I didn't. Rachel's instructions were precise and very helpful. I didn't do anything. She began, but I cut her off. I said, meeting her surprised gaze. Her friends hugged her, congratulating her on her efforts. Rachel looked at me, confused, but I was just respecting her wish not to disappoint her friends. Peeking out of Rachel's bag was a medical reference book, worn and full of sticky notes despite being a new edition this year. It was clear she had been studying hard. It might be hypocritical of me, but I believe hard work should be rewarded. And I want it to be rewarded. For those who work tirelessly. That's why I didn't want her to lose her motivation now. Both Rachel and I will face many more challenges in the future. But right now, Rachel doesn't need the additional burden of feeling she disappointed her friends. With the unexpected event, the mixer ended after the first round. I felt relieved that I didn't have to think of an excuse to skip the after party and was ready to leave. "Kent, wait up." Rachel, looking nervous, hurried after me. When I asked what was wrong, she said, "Thank you so much. Could I get your contact info? I'd like to stay connected as friends and colleagues." I found her endearing as she hesitantly offered her phone. I also took out my phone from my pocket. "Here's my number." "Thank you." Rachel registered my number with a pleased expression. After exchanging contact information, Rachel waved and returned to her friends. The women planned a sleepover and were heading out to shop for supplies. My friends and I decided to head to a bar we knew for more drinks. Still on non-alcoholic drinks, I found myself staring at my phone screen. I noticed a message from Rachel that had arrived unnoticed. A simple thank you message. I replied just as simply with "You're welcome" and hit send. Rachel probably wasn't great at texting, just like me. Our message exchange ended there. After that, we exchanged messages a few times a week, sharing mundane things like the beautiful sky today, flowers blooming, or what we had for dinner. We never planned dates, just sent random messages when we had time. It was a strange relationship, but I found it very comforting. Being able to go at my own pace felt light and freeing. Balancing my important work and meaningful friendships at my own pace made me very happy. We were still far from being fully fledged professionals. We were both busy gaining experience and learning from it. Too frequent contact would be exhausting. I found myself looking forward to Rachel's occasional "let's keep doing our best" and "good job today" messages. It wasn't until 6 months after the mixer that I realized this feeling was love. Rachel, still haunted by that day, was striving to become a calm and capable doctor, working and studying tirelessly, participating in various training sessions. I admired how she faced her shortcomings head-on, without blaming others, making excuses, or shifting responsibility, but instead making positive efforts. People often fail to meet their ideals, making excuses or running away, taking the negative route. But Rachel didn't run away. She was working hard to ensure she would succeed next time. While I was also busy with work and study, I ensured I got enough sleep and rested when I could. Rachel, being more self-disciplined, seemed to push herself without taking breaks. Although I worried she might be overworking, I was genuinely impressed and wanted to support her when she called, happy about her progress. It's tough, but I enjoy it. I feel like I'm finally carving out my path and can keep working hard to become a full-fledged doctor as soon as possible. She laughed when I asked if it was hard. Hearing her laugh made me realize that I loved her. I had probably felt this way for a while, but it wasn't until then that I recognized my feelings. I finally asked Rachel out on a date. "Rachel, when is your next day off?" "Next Thursday." Miraculously, we both had the same day off, and I successfully invited her on a date. Rachel accepted happily, and I quickly started planning our date. Although we had exchanged messages and talked on the phone, we hadn't met since the mixer, so this would be our second meeting. But I planned to confess my feelings on that date. I knew we were both busy, and who knew when we could meet again. To make sure my confession goes well, I started planning the perfect date. What are Rachel's interests? What's her favorite food? I pondered these questions, drawing from our previous conversations. Since she didn't seem very used to men, I thought of places that might be comfortable for her. These thoughts brought me great joy. In the few moments of peace in my busy days, I thought about Rachel. It was a sweet, new sensation for me. I didn't have many casual clothes, so I went out to buy some new ones. Not being up to date with the latest trends, I had fun shopping and consulting with the store staff. I never imagined I'd be shopping for casual clothes for a date. One night, an emergency call came in during my shift. I quickly took in the situation, instructed the nursing staff to prepare for the incoming patient, and rushed to the emergency entrance. As the ambulance arrived, Rachel stepped out, her white sweater stained with blood. A man in his 30s collided with an oncoming vehicle while riding a motorcycle. He was in critical condition, so we performed CPR and first aid to stop the bleeding. Rachel explained as she helped push the stretcher. She looked determined and reliable. "Got it. We'll take over from here," I said, leading the way to the treatment room. We disinfected and sutured the wounds, checked for brain damage, and contacted his family. Thanks to the high-quality first aid Rachel administered, the patient survived, although his injuries were severe. Exiting the treatment room, I found Rachel waiting. "Rachel, your first aid was perfect. It really helped. The patient's life is no longer in danger," I said, thanked her. Then, perhaps the tension dissipated, thank God. And Rachel sits up weakly and cries tears of relief. I was out shopping for clothes when I saw the accident outside the store. "I was scared, but my body moved on its own," she said. Rachel, still shaking, explained how she had been scared but pushed herself, remembering why she had worked so hard. When faced with an injured person, her body moved on its own. She naturally felt that helping the injured was her primary mission. She admitted that it took a lot of courage to step forward and declare herself a doctor, but knowing that no one else could help if she didn't. She was glad she took action. I knew how hard Rachel had worked until now. Rachel saved this patient. If she hadn't administered first aid at that moment, this patient wouldn't have survived. "You did great, Rachel," I said, patting her shoulder. She nodded in relief repeatedly, tears streaming down her face. "I'm just happy the patient is safe," she said, and I nodded in agreement. I gently patted her back until she calmed down. "Rachel, it's late, but my shift is almost over. Would you like to grab something to eat? There's a diner nearby that's open all night." I told Rachel that my shift was almost over and invited her to grab a meal. "I'd love to." "I haven't had dinner yet," she replied, her stomach growling. Embarrassed, Rachel held her stomach and mentioned changing out of her blood-stained sweater. She ran to the restroom with a bag of new clothes she had just bought. Her running figure seemed more reliable than before. She had gained confidence as a doctor since that day when she was trembling, trying to meet her friends' expectations. I silently told her "You did great" once more as she ran. After my shift ended, I found Rachel waiting at the night entrance and we headed to the diner. We entered the diner, lit by old neon lights, and took our seats, looking over the menu. I ordered fried chicken, and Rachel chose eggs Benedict. Rachel's eyes sparkled with happiness as she savored the food that had arrived after a few minutes. "This place is amazing. The food is delicious, the atmosphere is great, and being open all night is so convenient for night shift workers. I'm really glad you like it. I love this place too. After a night shift, I crave meat. I'm happy we could come here together. The steamed vegetables are plentiful, the soup is tasty, and there are so many other dishes I want to try. I might want to come here every day. Not just after night shifts." Exactly. Living alone, I rarely make elaborate meals. The food here always gives me energy. Thank you for introducing me to this place. It's really delicious. Next time, I might go for a hearty steak. Seeing Rachel so happy made me glad I brought her here. Before I knew it, I found myself confessing to Rachel. "Rachel, I like you." Rachel stopped eating, clearly surprised by my sudden confession. I also paused, realizing I had confessed spontaneously instead of on our planned date. But since I had already said it, there was no turning back. I had to convey my feelings properly. "I love how hard you work, how you strive for your goals, and even the casual conversations we have over messages and calls. Your determination has saved me many times. You've given me so much courage. I love everything about you." Rachel blushed and looked down. "I've thought about this a lot. I believe my feelings are real. Even though this is only our second time meeting in person. I'd like to ask if you'd go out with me." I stood up and extended my hand. Rachel hesitantly took it. "I was glad we had a private booth. I was able to keep going because of you, Kent. That day, I couldn't do anything, but you helped me not to disappoint my friends. It made me feel both grateful and ashamed. But thanks to you, I didn't give up." Rachel, unable to find the right words, took a deep breath and tightened her grip on my hand. The strength in her hand conveyed her strong feelings to me. Honestly, I didn't need any more words to understand Rachel's resolve. I also love you, Kent. If you're okay with someone like me, please take care of me. Rachel's humility, unchanged since we first met. That made me love her even more. And so, we started dating during our second meal together. Despite our busy schedules, we always made time for each other. Rachel said she needed more experience and knowledge, so she pushed herself even harder. She wanted to help as many patients as possible and alleviate their suffering. Rachel is studying with this single-minded focus. Inspired by Rachel, I also increased my participation in training sessions and dedicated more time to studying. I initially worried about making her feel lonely, but Rachel wasn't the type to feel that way. She was busy herself, and our free time aligned perfectly. Rachel valued both our relationship and her work, so we never felt neglected. We maintained a balanced relationship for 2 years. We were still busy, but Rachel was always by my side. Although my planned confession didn't go as expected, we ended up together in a wonderful way. We worked at different hospitals but maintained a good relationship as lovers and friendly rivals. Now, Rachel and I are married. My parents were surprised, saying, "I can't believe you got married." I was just as surprised. But marrying Rachel felt natural. We now live together in a house halfway between our workplaces. As a married couple of doctors, we share all household chores equally. Rachel is expecting our child, adding to our joy. Currently, I handle most of the housework to support Rachel. Having spent our lives saving others, the thought of becoming parents and nurturing a new life feels truly special. Knowing Rachel, she will approach parenting with the same seriousness she has for her work. I want to be there for her, ensuring she doesn't overdo it, helping her enjoy and excel at motherhood. As for myself, I want to be a father I can be proud of, striving to excel not only as a doctor but also as a parent. Rachel and I are still as passionate about our work as ever, constantly pushing each other to reach new heights. Rachel is considering switching from internal medicine to emergency medicine after her maternity leave. As a senior in emergency medicine, please guide me well. Of course. I'm going to be just as diligent as you, Rachel. I once thought I was unsuitable for relationships and buried myself in work. But now I've found someone with whom I can share mutual growth and happiness, and it's the greatest joy in my life. Even someone like me, who thought love was impossible, managed to get married thanks to a fateful encounter. Life is full of surprises, so I'll never give up and always be ready for opportunities. And Rachel. Rachel has grown tremendously. At first, she struggled to meet others' expectations and wore the labels they put on her, often missing the essence of things. However, her relentless effort to meet those expectations led her to realize the true essence of her work, making her a commendable doctor. If Rachel had turned away from reality after failing to help Mark at the restaurant, she wouldn't be the doctor she is today. Nor would we be together now. Her choices and efforts then have shaped our present and future, including our unborn child. This has also given me a new motivation for my work. Previously, my motivation was solely to save lives. Now, continuing my work as a doctor also means providing for my family. Having someone to protect makes me realize how fortunate I am. I want to work hard to protect this happiness. It was my first high school reunion since becoming the business owner I had always dreamed of being. I was looking forward to seeing my classmates after such a long time. But what awaited me was a nightmarish experience. A poor guy as a business owner? Is your house a doghouse? Travis's crude laughter echoed through the reunion venue. Travis used to be quieter and wasn't such a jerk. I wondered what had happened to make him like this. Regardless of the reason, not knowing what's appropriate to say at the age of 30 is pathetic. I was so shocked that I was speechless. Travis, without caring about my reaction, kept talking. After this, we're having the after party at your place. To my disbelief, Travis decided on my house as the after party venue without asking. I had no choice. I ended up guiding all my classmates to my house. There, Travis would never be able to call me a poor guy and look down on me again. My name is Harvey Underlake, and I'm 30 years old. My background is too complicated to describe in a single word. I lost both my parents to illness before I could even remember them. There were no relatives willing to take in such a young child, so I was sent to an orphanage. There, I met a kind, motherly teacher named Maggie. Maggie treated me with the love of a real son. When I had just entered elementary school and cried wanting to see my parents, she stayed by my side and comforted me with kind words. "I'll always be here for you, Harvey. Come to me whenever you feel lonely." I was saved countless times by Maggie's gentle words. The orphanage was full of kids my age, and we grew up feeling like a big family. Although I didn't have parents, it was a warm environment. However, things changed when I entered middle school. Shortly after starting, I was teased at school for being from an orphanage. In elementary school, I never heard such things, so I felt completely safe and was filled with despair. Classmates even came to the front of the orphanage and shouted loudly, "You're a poor orphan. That's so lame." The other kids at the orphanage looked on in bewilderment. In a weak voice, I said, "Hey, stop it," but they ignored me. At that moment, Maggie rushed out from inside the orphanage. She was furious like a storm. "Hey, where do you live? I need to go to your house and talk to your parents." If you can't say your address, don't do such mean things." When Maggie said that, the classmates ran off. I was so frustrated at my helplessness that I burst into tears. Maggie then said to me, "Don't let those terrible people get to you. Harvey, be strong. You have many good qualities that others don't. Develop those, so no one can look down on you." Maggie said it firmly, but did I really have good qualities? Lacking confidence, I looked down and muttered, "What are my good qualities?" Maggie looked me in the eye and said, "I know you have many good qualities, Harvey. Your parents are watching over you from heaven. You're not alone." Her words opened my eyes. I had Maggie and my parents in heaven. I decided to become strong and show those who tease me what I could become. I thought about what I needed to do to achieve that. That's when I came up with the idea of becoming a business owner. From that point on, I studied relentlessly. Although I hadn't decided yet what kind of business I would run in the future, I believed that if I became smarter through studying, the path would naturally open up. This way, my grades kept improving rapidly. My improved grades became apparent when I was studying for my high school entrance exams. Maggie suggested that I take a mock exam at the prep school and made the arrangements for me. Like my other classmates, I wanted to attend a prep school for high school entrance exams, but as a child raised in a facility, it was impossible for me. My classmates regularly took mock exams to gauge their level, but since I wasn't attending a prep school, I had no idea where I stood. That's when Maggie, being considerate, arranged for me to take the mock exam. Since the facility only provided the minimum living expenses, Maggie probably paid for it herself. This will help clarify what Harvey should study now and be beneficial for the high school entrance exams. Do your best. Maggie said this as she dropped me off in front of the prep school. I was only grateful to Maggie. After arriving at the mock exam venue and taking the test, all I had to do was wait for the results. In the meantime, I continued studying for the entrance exams from early morning till late at night. One day, during this routine, Maggie was astonished when she saw the mock exam results that arrived at the facility. The other teachers at the facility were also wide-eyed with surprise. Was my performance really that bad? Feeling anxious, Maggie showed me the results and said, "Harvey, you said before that you didn't know your strengths, right? Your strength is that you never give up and work hard towards your goals. This is something you won't lose to anyone." As I listened to Maggie's words, I stared at the mock exam results. The results were all A grades in every subject. With these grades, Harvey, you can probably get into any high school you want. Thank you. It's all thanks to you, Maggie. When I said this, Maggie put her hand on my shoulder. No, I didn't do anything. It's the natural result of your hard work, Harvey. Keep it up for the high school entrance exams. Maggie said so with a smile. Then, the day of the high school entrance exam came, and I was able to finish it successfully. I got into a high school known for its high academic standards. This was all thanks to Maggie and everyone at the facility who supported me. I decided to enjoy my high school life for everyone's sake. I spent the next 3 years with that in mind. In high school, I made good friends and had a lot of fun every day. Having enjoyed a fulfilling high school life, I reached my senior year and finally had to leave the facility. It was sad, but it was a rule that couldn't be changed. I was immensely grateful to the facility that had raised me so well, despite having no family. Especially to Maggie, who treated me like her son, I felt an indescribable amount of gratitude. As I was leaving the facility, Maggie handed me an envelope. The envelope was sealed tightly, so I couldn't see what was inside without cutting it open with scissors. "Harvey, from now on, it's your life. Carve out the future you desire. If things get really tough, take a look inside this envelope." I swore to live my life to the fullest, just as Maggie had said. 12 years have passed since then. I am now a working adult, living a busy life every day. One day, as I was walking down the street on my way to an office, someone called out to me from behind. When I turned around, there was a stylish-looking man in a fancy suit standing there. "Hey! Long time no see. You haven't changed a bit, so I recognized you right away, Harvey." I couldn't recall who this friendly man was. Since he spoke to me so warmly, he must have been someone I was close to. But strangely, I just couldn't remember who he was. Sorry, I can't seem to remember. What's your name?" Thinking it would be rude to continue without remembering, I asked for his name. The man looked puzzled. "How can't you remember? Is there even a brain in your head?" "Damn. I'm Travis, we were together in high school." With those words, I finally remembered. But Travis looked completely different from back then, unrecognizable. Back then, Travis's trademark was his glasses, and he had no sense of style. He was always quiet, and we never really talked. "Sorry. It's been a while, so it took me a moment." "Travis, how have you been? What are you doing now?" Trying to change the subject quickly, I asked Travis, who was in a bad mood. Travis started talking proudly. "You know I've always been smart, right? So, I went to T University, and now I work at the famous N Corporation." "Isn't that amazing? T University? That's impressive." When I said that, Travis looked at me and laughed derisively. "Isn't it? Well, you were smart too, but since you grew up in a facility, you couldn't go to college, right? That's so pathetic. Even though everyone said you were smarter than me, you couldn't get ahead without a good environment. So, are you doing some part-time job now?" I was stunned by Travis's words. Was I pathetic? I had never thought of myself as unfortunate. Travis's words were not true. But here, I didn't feel like arguing with Travis, who was looking down on me, so I decided to brush it off. "Well, I'm working here and there." When I said that, Travis laughed. "Must be nice for you. With low education, you can work casually without anyone saying anything." "I'm jealous." "Well, I'm busy, so see you." Travis said that unilaterally and left. What a guy. I was really irritated, but I didn't have time to deal with Travis. I thought I'd never see him again, so I decided to let it go. But then, another hellish event happened to me. It all started with a phone call from my high school classmate, Gordon. "Hey, let's go out for a drink." I hadn't met up with any of my high school classmates because I was so busy, so I was thrilled by Gordon's invitation. Gordon was a particularly close friend during high school. We stayed in touch frequently, but it had been a year since we last met. Of course, I happily accepted Gordon's proposal and went to the pub where we agreed to meet. When I entered the pub and was shown to the table, I was astonished. It wasn't just Gordon who was there. "Long time no see. It's been a year, hasn't it? I'm glad to see you're doing well." Gordon cheerfully called out to me. "Hey! We meet again." To my surprise, Travis was also sitting at the table. I was too shocked to speak. "Seeing me like that," Gordon said. "You guys already ran into each other again?" "I ran into Travis just before coming in here, so I invited him for a drink." I was surprised at how much he had changed. I could only nod quietly to Gordon's words. Why did I have to meet Travis again? I felt a bit complicated. Unaware of my feelings, Gordon chatted happily with Travis. As the drinks flowed, we started reminiscing about our high school days. Then, Travis once again began to say unbelievable things, looking down on me. You were the top student in the class without even going to prep school, right? What trick did you use? Did you suck up to the homeroom teacher? I was speechless. Everyone knows that grades don't improve just by sucking up. For him to say such things with a straight face, he must be out of his mind. Thinking that, I said, that's not true. I couldn't go to prep school back then, so I studied desperately. Gordon then raised his voice to defend me. Travis! What are you talking about? Harvey was incredibly smart. Besides, he was popular with the girls because he was good-looking. When Gordon said that, Travis smirked maliciously. Harvey, smart? He must have cheated. And the girls were fooled too. Really, everyone has no eye for people. Travis said this and downed the beer in his hand. Gordon and I exchanged glances. It seemed Travis absolutely didn't want to acknowledge me. I didn't care whether Travis acknowledged me or not. What Travis thought of me was none of my business. But Gordon's face contorted. There's no way he cheated. Are you serious? Gordon's face turned red. Come on, we've been drinking. I don't mind, so don't raise your voice. I said to calm Gordon, and Travis started laughing. Then he said something shocking. Are you pretending to be a saint again? I've always been sick of that attitude of yours. I hate you for trying to make everyone like you by cheating, even though you're just a poor kid. A saint. What on earth was Travis talking about? As I was in shock, Gordon shouted at Travis. I shouldn't have invited you. Get out of here. You came here just to insult Harvey, didn't you? Is it because you've never beaten Harvey at anything since we were kids? Are you trying to get revenge now? With Gordon's words, Travis's face turned redder and redder. He started shaking with anger. No, that's not it. Someone from a facility like you was never on the same level as me from the beginning. Don't get the wrong idea. Travis said this, stood up, and left the restaurant. It was as quiet as if a storm had passed. Gordon desperately apologized to me. I had no idea Travis had become such a nasty person. I'm really sorry for bringing him here. It's not your fault, Gordon. Sometimes you run into people like that in life. But I hope I never see him again. When I said that, Gordon gave a wry smile. Then we started drinking again and had a great time. A few days after that hellish day, I got a call from Gordon. Wondering what it was about, I answered the phone, and an excited Gordon started talking. We're suddenly having a reunion with our close friends. Of course, you'll join, right? I won't force you if you're too busy with work, though. It was the first reunion invitation since graduating high school. There was no reason for me not to go, so I decided to accept the invitation. But I had one concern. Travis isn't coming, right? When I said that, Gordon laughed. Of course not. I wouldn't invite him. This is a reunion for our close friends. Relieved, I said, then I'll join, and Gordon happily hung up the phone. I was looking forward to catching up with my old classmates. At that time, I had no idea that this fun reunion would turn into another hellish experience. On the day of the reunion, I finished work early and headed to the restaurant where the reunion was being held. Along the way, I met up with Gordon. Gordon, also excited about the reunion, was a bit hyper. I wonder how everyone's doing. I can't wait to talk to them. Yeah, me too. Having this cheerful conversation, we entered the restaurant and found our old classmates gathered there. And that's when I saw something I shouldn't have. Gordon was also stunned. One of our classmates approached us. I invited Travis too, hope that's okay? I ran into him on the street the other day. The more the merrier at a reunion, right? Of course. Gordon said, though his voice was trembling. Despite everything Travis had said to Gordon at the bar, he still showed up. Perhaps Travis had nerves of steel. Why did I have to run into Travis again? As I was thinking that, another classmate called out to me. Harvey. Long time no see. What are you up to now? I decided to be honest with my classmate's question. I'm running a company now. Everyone was astonished at my words. Gordon added. Harvey is an amazing business owner. My classmates' eyes lit up. Harvey was always smart. That's incredible. While my classmates were expressing their admiration, Travis started laughing uproariously. A poor kid from a facility running a business? Do you live in a doghouse? Don't make me laugh. Travis's vulgar laughter echoed through the reunion venue. The classmates exchanged looks, shocked by his words. In this joyful reunion, I couldn't understand why he would say something to ruin the atmosphere, and I was in shock. Gordon once again raised his voice at Travis. That's incredibly rude. Even after hearing Gordon, Travis just laughed and continued to make inflammatory remarks. I'm just saying what everyone else is thinking. Harvey is a far more capable business owner than you think. As soon as Gordon said this, the restaurant fell silent. I could only watch the scene unfold. No way. Hey, Harvey, isn't that right? Let's have an after party at your place. Hey, you can't just decide that. It would trouble Harvey. Gordon looked at me with concern. But this seemed like the only way to shut Travis up. I had no choice. All right. My place isn't far from here. You can come if you want. When I said this, Travis smiled smugly. I can't wait to see what kind of dump you live in. Travis's words cast a dark shadow over the restaurant. But soon, our classmates began to lighten up and shared high school memories enthusiastically. I made a phone call to a certain place. Gordon looked at me with concern. Are you sure about this? Yeah, I just made a call, so don't worry too much. Gordon still looked apologetic. After the reunion ended, we all headed to my place. When I stopped in front of a luxury high-rise, my classmates, including Travis, were astonished. Come on, keep moving. This is my home. What? This is a millions of dollars high-rise. There's no way someone like you could live here. Stop joking around. When Travis said that, Gordon started laughing. Has Harvey ever joked? He's not that kind of person. Yeah, right. So you really live here? That's incredible. The classmates were impressed, their eyes shining. Well, if you make too much noise here, it will disturb the neighbors. It's a $50 million doghouse, but go ahead. I said sarcastically, and Travis and the others were shocked. $50 million? No way. Travis bit his lip in frustration. Everyone followed me upstairs. When we reached the top floor, everyone gasped. Wow! You live in an amazing place. My classmates watched intently as I unlocked the door. Meanwhile, Travis looked at me with suspicion. There must be something fishy going on. What on earth is he talking about? How much does he look down on me? Sighing, I opened the door and found Sadie there. I'm home. Sorry for this suddenly, I said, and Sadie smiled. It's rare for you to bring friends over. Cody just went to bed, so it's fine. Seeing this, my classmates looked apologetic. Harvey, you're married? We had no idea you had such a beautiful wife and a child. Sorry for barging in. Travis, on the other hand, was staring at Sadie curiously. Sadie invited everyone into the living room. There was a feast laid out. In such a short time, while taking care of Cody, she had prepared all this for me. I couldn't be more grateful to Sadie. My classmates, overwhelmed by the atmosphere, started taking their seats. It's amazing that you live in such a grand place. What kind of work do you do to afford a house like this? One of the classmates asked, and once again, despite Sadie being right there, Travis said something unbelievable. You must be involved in something shady. Gordon was too exasperated to speak, and the other classmates looked incredulous. Sadie frowned, trying to suppress her anger. Here we go again. As I thought that, Travis started staring intently at Sadie again. Then, as if realizing something, his eyes widened. Noticing this, a concerned classmate looked at Travis. Hey, Travis, are you okay? You don't look well. Travis, clearly agitated, raised his voice. Aren't you the daughter of Mr. Morgan, my company's president? What are you doing here? Travis was so shocked he seemed about to collapse. Sadie let out a big sigh. Oh, you work at N Corporation. My father has no eye for talent, hiring someone as rude and awful as you." When Sadie said this, Travis trembled. The living room fell silent. "I'm Harvey's wife." When Sadie said this, all my classmates looked at me simultaneously. And they all started talking at once. "Harvey, you married into wealth. That's amazing." Travis looked incredulous. Then Sadie began to laugh. "It's true that my parents are wealthy, with my father being the president of N Corporation, but this house was purchased by Harvey. He earns more than my father does." Everyone listened to Sadie's words with skepticism. Gordon addressed our classmates. "Hey, do you know who built this building?" Everyone was stunned. Travis shouted, "That's easy. It's Ueda, the company that constructs famous buildings worldwide, right? It's often featured in news and magazines. Everyone knows that. Then, you should already know Harvey's profession." "What? You mean Ueda is Harvey?" "No way." Travis was shocked. I decided to reveal my true identity. "I'm the CEO of Ueda." "What? You only graduated high school. There's no way a high school grad like you could run such a big company." Travis assumed that because I grew up in a facility, I only had a high school education. I'm fed up with Travis's condescending attitude. I've had enough. "I don't know where you got the idea that I'm just a high school graduate, but I went to graduate school. That's where I met Sadie." Sadie nodded at me. Our classmates seemed confused. "My late parents left money for me." "No way," Travis said, eyes wide. In fact, during my senior year of high school, I had decided on a path. I wanted to become an architect. The reason I chose this path was because my father, who had passed away from illness, was an architect. I wanted to see the world through his eyes. To become an architect, I wanted to learn more specialized knowledge and decided to go to university. However, as a facility-raised child, I didn't have enough money for university. So, I decided to borrow scholarships and work while attending university. I knew it wouldn't be an easy path. But I didn't want to give up. After successfully getting into my desired university, I left the facility after graduating high school. At that time, Maggie gave me an envelope. I decided to follow her advice and open it only when things got really tough. That tough time came sooner than expected. Shortly after starting university life, I was suddenly told to vacate my apartment for renovations. Having no money, it was difficult for me to move immediately. Desperate, I looked inside the envelope Maggie had given me. To my astonishment, inside was a bank book in my name. There was a letter from Maggie tucked inside, saying, "This is the money your parents saved for you. Use it wisely." When I saw the amount in the bank book, I was stunned. There were hundreds of thousands of dollars in it. I was overwhelmed with tears, realizing my parents had saved such a large amount for me. Having never felt my parents' love before, I received it in an unexpected way. Gratefully, I used the money to go to university and graduate school. It was there that I met my wife, Sadie. Sadie didn't mind that I was from a facility and became my girlfriend. She also volunteered to help underprivileged children in facilities and was kind to everyone around her. Wanting to spend my life with such a wonderful person, I proposed to Sadie. We got married. And later had our son Cody. Sadie supported my dream of becoming a business owner, and I was able to establish Ueda. Word of my talent spread among those who recognized it, and now I get to work on architectural projects around the world. Sadie handed a drink to the stunned Travis. Now you understand, right? Harvey achieved success through his own efforts. Just because someone grew up in a facility doesn't mean they have to be poor. You've looked down on Harvey since we reunited. But he's not the person you think he is. In reality, you shouldn't even be talking to someone like him. The classmates were all silent. Travis looked at me with resentment. Why does everything always work out for you, Harvey? I've worked hard since our school days. I studied at multiple prep schools to keep up with you. Yet the teachers and classmates always favored you. Why does someone who didn't even have to try always get the good things? It seemed Travis had harbored a competitive spirit towards me since our school days. I was surprised to learn about Travis's true feelings for the first time. Then Sadie started talking to Travis. Your name is Travis, right? Harvey has worked twice as hard because he didn't have parents. But he persevered and built his current position. You're smart too, so you understand, right? I understand. But I can't accept it. Travis stared straight at Sadie. Sadie also didn't avert her gaze. You got a job at the prestigious N Corporation, so you've worked hard too. I understand that feeling of frustration, but let's stop now. Hating others won't get you anywhere. It's not too late to change. When Sadie said that, Travis began to cry loudly. Gordon and the classmates were wide-eyed. The once sharp-tongued Travis looked weak and frail. Travis, trembling, spoke in a weak voice. Harvey. What I did was terrible. I'm ashamed of myself. But listening to Sadie, I woke up. I'm really sorry. Can you forgive me? Gordon nodded at me. I approached Travis and placed my hand on his shoulder. Everyone makes mistakes. Understanding them is what matters. When I said that, Travis cried even more. Now that Travis has seen the light, let's drink tonight. Gordon's words were a signal, and we all had a great time. After that, Travis became a different person, kinder and more gentle. Perhaps because of this, he met his soulmate at work and got married. Of course, Sadie and I were invited to the wedding. Travis looked so happy, and it made us happy to see him that way. As we were leaving, Travis said to me, "Thanks to you and Sadie, I've been reborn. I'm really grateful. Please stay friends with me forever." Of course. Let's keep in touch. Travis and I shook hands firmly. That's how Travis and I became best friends. People grow through their mistakes. What matters is how you build on those mistakes. I intend to cherish this encounter and the happiness I have now. If you don't mind, would you like to come to my place? That day, I invited a beautiful homeless mother and daughter who had asked me for $1 to my home. A few days of sleeping rough had taken a toll on them, but after a bath, I was shocked at how incredibly beautiful they were. When I asked for details about their situation, I was stunned into silence by their past. A week later, Mr. Eastwood, the CEO of a major client, showed up at my house and said, "I want you to handle the contract." My response to his words was, 15 years ago, in the summer. When I was a 5th grader, I, David, was called to the teacher's office by my homeroom teacher, Mr. Anderson, during recess. I hurried to the office. This was the 3rd time I had been called in about the same matter since the day before yesterday. "Mr. Anderson, I've told you many times, but I swear I didn't take John's eraser." Young me insisted desperately, but Mr. Anderson sighed deeply and looking troubled, said, "I see. But David, 3 of your classmates said they saw you flush John's eraser down the toilet." I don't want to believe it. But didn't you have an argument with John last Friday? So, do you think I did it too, Mr. Anderson? No, it's not like that, but it's human nature to want revenge when something bad happens, right? Feeling unjustly accused, I angrily explained to Mr. Anderson. Last Friday, John took my goggles during swimming class and wouldn't give them back. When he finally did, he threw them on the floor as a joke. That's why we argued. But he apologized afterward, and we've been playing together during recess this week. There's no way I would do such a thing to John. But Mr. Anderson crossed his arms and said something that was hard to believe. "David, I really don't want to say this, but one of the students who reported you is Sam, the son of a very wealthy man. His father is the CEO of a big company, and his mother, the PTA president, is quite influential. It's very troublesome for me if they become my enemies. So what are you saying? Are you seriously telling me that I should falsely confess and apologize to John for something I didn't do? Well, that would be the easiest solution, but even I think that's a bit too much." Outraged by his unthinkable comment as a teacher, I felt my blood boil with anger. I couldn't help but raise my voice. Noticing the commotion, other teachers in the office started murmuring, "What's going on?" Seeing this, Mr. Anderson got flustered, cleared his throat to cover it up, and said while glancing around nervously, "Anyway, let's discuss this again tomorrow." However, deeply shocked by this incident, I started experiencing such severe mental stress that it nearly led to a distrust of people. From the next day, I frequently fell ill. Whenever I walked into the classroom, my classmates would whisper and look at me like I was a criminal. Despite this, Mr. Anderson never publicly stated the truth. One day, after about a month of enduring such painful days, as I was about to head to school as usual, putting on my shoes at the front door with my backpack on, I was suddenly struck by a severe headache and collapsed on the spot. Eventually, my body stopped responding to me, and I could no longer attend school. A few years later, after moving out of state, I felt somewhat relieved and my health became more stable. I was able to start attending school again from middle school. The painful incident where I was falsely accused gave me a new goal: to become a lawyer. I wanted to help people who were suffering just like I did. I wanted to be a voice for those who couldn't speak up for themselves. With that determination, I studied hard every day. My effort was worth it, as I got accepted into Department of Law in a college. After graduating from college, I entered law school. And at the age of 23, I successfully passed the challenging bar exam. After more than a year of judicial training, I also passed the final exam without any issues, and finally, I was able to become a lawyer, like I had always dreamed of being. One night at midnight. Now, at 29, I'm constantly swamped with unpaid overtime, and once again, I barely caught the last train home. Becoming a lawyer turned out to be completely different from what I had imagined during my student days. I was happy to be appreciated by others, but the pay was lower than I expected, and I often got stuck with cases that senior lawyers didn't want. Additionally, listening to clients' complaints makes the time fly, and before I know it, it's time for the last train, just like today. Feeling somewhat dissatisfied with my daily routine, I couldn't help but let out a big sigh as I held onto the handstrap on the train. Thinking back, I spent my school years studying and never had a girlfriend. If life is this tough, it would be nice to come home to a cute wife who welcomes me with a smile. I muttered this to myself as I arrived at my station, getting off the train with a gloomy expression. Remembering that my fridge was empty, I thought about stopping by a convenience store on my way home as I exited the station turnstile. Near the bike racks, I noticed a woman holding hands with a little girl who looked about 2 years old. Upon closer look, I saw that the woman was a fair-skinned, short-haired beauty. I couldn't help but be captivated by her. However, I wondered what could be the reason for her being here with a child at such a late hour. Feeling a bit suspicious, I kept an eye on them, but when my stomach growled loudly, I quickly headed to the convenience store. However, a few minutes later, when I came out of the convenience store with my dinner, I noticed the mother and daughter from earlier watching me from beside the streetlight. It seemed they had followed me from the station to here. Seriously, being followed is like a horror movie. Their behavior made me shiver with fear for a moment, but then I saw the little girl next to her mother start to fuss. Without thinking, I found myself speaking up. You seem to be in some trouble. What's going on?" As I got closer and asked, the mother, squatting to comfort her daughter, looked up apologetically and said, "I'm really sorry to ask, but could you spare $1? We're very hungry, but we don't have any money to buy food." Until now, I hadn't noticed from a distance, but up close, I saw that their clothes were quite dirty, and their hair was greasy and unkempt. Not sure of their situation, I guess they might have been unable to go home for some time. Feeling sorry for them, I thought for a moment and said, "Maybe $1 isn't enough to buy anything, right? Let me treat you tonight. Please pick whatever you like from the convenience store over there. It's so late that other stores are probably closed. I'm sorry, I can only offer to buy something here." She shook her head vigorously and, almost in tears, said, "No worries. Thank you so much for your kind words to us, especially after we just asked for money out of nowhere. I promise I will repay the money you spent for us today someday." "No, there's no need to repay me. It's not a big amount. Please, get something for your daughter to eat." That's why she was fussing, right? Smiling kindly at the daughter hiding behind her mother, I led them back into the convenience store. A few minutes later, while buying sandwiches and snacks, I suddenly asked the mother about their situation. "So, you were at the station with your daughter at this hour because you don't have a place to go?" She hesitated but then admitted that their electricity, gas, and water had been cut off. Even though the nights were cooler, it was the middle of summer. Without air conditioning, their room must have been unbearably hot. Imagining their plight, I couldn't just leave them and decided to bring them to my home. This might seem intrusive, but would you like to come to my place? Your daughter is still young, and it's dangerous to stay outside like this. You've already treated us to dinner. We can't possibly. They were hesitant about my offer, but the exhaustion from the heat wave must have worn them out, and they eventually accepted my offer. I guided them to my apartment and let them in. Initially reserved, they were soon delighted with the air conditioning. I offered them to take a bath first. It must have been days since their last bath, so they probably wanted to freshen up quickly. I quickly explained how to use the shower and whereabouts the shampoo, and handed the mother some clothes that my sister had left behind. Meanwhile, I hurriedly prepared the bedding, heated up the food I bought from the convenience store, and laid it out on the table. Thank you so much for your kindness. You've provided us with food, a bath, and a place to sleep at this hour. We can't thank you enough. After getting out of the bath, the mother sat her daughter at the dining table and appreciated me as she spoke. In response, I smiled and said, "No need to thank me. I happen to have the day off tomorrow. Please, enjoy your meal." I gestured to the food I had bought, offering it to them. At that moment, the daughter, no longer able to endure her hunger, eagerly took a sandwich from her mother and began to eat it with great delight. Next, the mother also said, "Thank you so much," and began to eat the sandwich in front of her with gratitude. Let me properly introduce ourselves. I'm Anna, and my daughter here is Lily. We haven't had anything but water for a while. So today is our first meal in 5 days. We were really in a dangerous situation, and you saved us. Thank you so much, she said, smiling with joy as she ate her sandwich. Shocked by the fact that they went by 5 days without food, I paused mid-bite. My name is David. I had no idea you hadn't eaten in so long. I thought it might be rude to ask personal questions when we just met. But I'm really worried now. Could you tell me more about your situation? At my words, Anna hesitated a bit, but when she saw Lily happily reaching for a second sandwich, her expression softened. Then, making eye contact with me, she seemed to steel herself and slowly began to share their story. Anna and her ex-husband, Jack, met during their freshman year of college. Being the daughter of a company president and having attended an all-girls school, he was the first male friend she ever got close to. His friendly and easygoing nature quickly drew her in, and with his persistent advances, they started dating in their junior year of college. Both secured jobs at Anna's father's company, and 3 years later, they got married. However, when their daughter Lily was born, Anna's father was suddenly accused of tax evasion. He continually asserted his innocence, but the stress caused him to collapse, and his pre-existing health condition worsened, leading to his death. Afterward, Jack took over as CEO, but his personality drastically changed. Anna endured daily verbal abuse, which took a severe toll on her mental health. He called me ugly and a parasite every day. Then, his late-night returns increased, and I discovered he was living with another woman. 6 months ago, he demanded a divorce, and Lily began to fear him. So, we got divorced, but he took almost all our assets. I was determined to be independent and not rely on anyone, but the mental strain was too much, and I often fell ill. Because of this, I lost the job I had finally. As she spoke, tears welled up in her eyes. The story was so heartbreaking that I found myself at a loss for words. Lily's tendency to hide behind her mother or look a bit scared when she saw me must have been because of her ex-husband's behavior. Understanding this, I made a proposal to them. I'm actually a lawyer. Not sharing the marital assets is a violation of civil law, so you could sue him. Gathering evidence on other matters could also get you substantial compensation. While a lawsuit is emotionally taxing, it might help improve your situation. If you need assistance, please let me know. I'll support you fully. She looked a bit surprised and murmured, "You're a lawyer?" After pondering for a while, she earnestly asked, "I can't decide right now, but if it comes to that, I would appreciate your help." Although she conversed with me with a bright smile, I knew she was hiding a lot of pain. She was likely holding back her emotions to avoid worrying Lily, who was beside her. As a mother, she's trying to keep the atmosphere calm for her daughter. How could her ex-husband abandon such a young child and his devoted wife without hesitation? And take most of their assets to live with another woman? Thinking that, I felt like Anna's ex-husband was a demon, and the more I listened to her story, the more my anger simmered. The second morning after they came to my place, while sitting on the sofa in my pajamas, watching TV, Lily woke up and climbed onto my lap, snuggling up to me. Pointing at my face, she smiled and said, "Dave." It seemed she finally understood I wasn't a bad person. "That's right, my name is Dave. You finally remembered." She was so adorable that I almost wanted to nuzzle her chubby little cheeks, but I didn't want to be disliked because of my stubbly beard. So I held back. Looking closely, I noticed her well-defined features were just like Anna's. "Lily has really taken a liking to you." She's generally shy around men, so this is the first time I've seen her being playful like this. Anna, who had just woken up, said this in surprise. Laughing, I responded, "It feels like I have a daughter before getting a girlfriend," as I patted Lily's hair. Anna watched us with a gentle expression and then quietly said, "I wish I could snuggle as good as she is." Surprised, I asked, "What?" and she blushed, quickly retreating to the kitchen. After we finished breakfast, Anna started packing, saying she would visit an uncle who had always been kind to her. "If you're worried about imposing, please don't. Lily seems to be comfortable here. And I would feel more at ease with you both around rather than being alone." "Thank you, but I feel like I won't be able to move forward if I keep relying on you. My uncle and I were close, but I felt guilty about burdening him with my problems. However, I've decided to take the first step and visit him." My suggestion was politely declined, as she felt it might be too much to accept. However, it's a good thing that her feelings about not wanting to inconvenience others are changing, and she's learning to rely on people. Thinking this, I handed her $500 from my wallet and said with a smile, "Please come to me anytime you're in trouble. It's okay to tell someone when you're struggling. I think you tend to endure until the very end." Hearing this, her eyes filled with tears, and she said gratefully in a trembling voice, "Thank you." With that, the two of them appreciated deeply at the doorway once more, saying, "We'll visit again," and waved as they left. A week later, during the afternoon, a man in his 60s, introducing himself as Anna's uncle, visited my home. His name was Thomas Eastwood. I recognized him that he is the CEO of Eastwood Securities and a client of our law firm. By the time he learned about Anna and Jack's divorce, she and Lily were already missing, and when he asked Jack, all he said was, "I don't know." Because of that, he considered the possibility of a crime and desperately asked the police to help search. Until Anna and Lily showed up on his doorstep on their own a few days ago. I was able to reunite with the two of them thanks to you. I heard you gave them a place to sleep, food, and even listened to their troubles. So today, I've come to thank you." He said this with a warm smile. In response, I humbly said, No, it was nothing significant. Anna's father, my brother, was the CEO of Eastwood Electrical. He was accused of tax evasion out of nowhere. But he was an honest man who would never do such a thing. After his death, for some reason, Jack took over as CEO. Despite my brother telling me his eldest son, who was abroad, would succeed him. This whole situation feels very suspicious to me. His gaze was earnest as he spoke. Although I couldn't say it to her face, I had suspected there might be something behind Jack's sudden change when Anna told me her story. I nodded in agreement immediately upon hearing his words and shared my own thoughts. I don't know if Anna is aware, but Jack recently remarried and has been living lavishly with the assets he took. This enrages me. And I want to sue him considering all the suspicions arising. What? He remarried? After making Anna and Lily suffer so much, how could he? Our law firm has some of the best lawyers. And I'm sure we can help you, Mr. Eastwood. Angrily, I replied, but he shook his head and said, "No, I want you to handle it. It's rare to find someone as sincere and trustworthy as you. I don't just need someone to recite laws, I need someone who can appeal to him on a human level. For Anna and Lily's sake, I would like to ask you." "David." He said this, extending his hand to me with conviction. Remembering Anna and Lily's situation from a week ago, there was no room for hesitation. Eagerly, I shook Mr. Eastwood's hand firmly and said, "The pleasure is mine." "Thank you." Thus, I teamed up with Mr. Eastwood from Eastwood Securities to thoroughly investigate Jack. Later, when I looked into Jack's family registry, I discovered he had been adopted as a child. Finding this suspicious, I contacted a detective agency we've worked with for years to delve into his background. What they uncovered left me stunned as I jotted down notes during our call. Jack's biological parents ran Smith Iron Works, a subcontractor for Eastwood Electrical. During a severe recession, Eastwood Electrical terminated their contract, plunging Jack's family into financial hardship. This event caused his father to disappear, his mother to be hospitalized with a mental illness, and his family to break apart, leading to Jack being put up for adoption. I muttered to myself and then called Mr. Eastwood. I then called Anna, and at her request, we arranged a meeting with Jack included. On the day of the meeting, we rented a meeting room at our firm where Anna, Mr. Eastwood, Jack, and I gathered. Lily was with Mrs. Eastwood because she cried, "I don't want to see Daddy." In the tense atmosphere, I told Jack about our investigation into his background. "Were you harboring resentment towards Eastwood Electrical, and specifically Mr. Eastwood, Anna's father, for your family's misfortunes? Did you marry Anna as part of a revenge plan, spreading false rumors to oust her father?" Jack scratched his head furiously and, with a pained expression, began to speak. "Yes, when I met Anna in college, I saw it as a chance for revenge. I pretended to love you, Anna, and eventually married you. I spread the tax evasion rumors to make Mr. Eastwood suffer like my family did." Hearing this, Anna looked down sadly, and her uncle, Mr. Eastwood, trembled with anger. Trying to remain composed, I continued questioning Jack. "You say you didn't love her, but did you really mean that? Could you really marry someone and have a child with them without any genuine feelings?" "Shut up. I never had any feelings for Anna. She was a pampered girl who never knew hardship. All I felt was disdain. I never asked for Lily, Anna decided that on her own." Mr. Eastwood pounded the table in rage. I was relieved that Lily wasn't present in this chaotic scene. After a moment of silence, Anna began to speak. "Actually, I knew from your family registry that you were from Smith Iron Works. I suspected you might have approached me for revenge. But I wanted to believe you loved me. I thought that if we lived together, we could become a real family someday." Tears streamed down her face as she spoke. Shocked by her revelation, Mr. Eastwood and I exchanged glances. Jack also looked surprised and distressed. "Anna, are you an idiot? It's obviously for revenge. You think living together will make you a family? How delusional can you be? My father regretted what happened all the time. He made a terrible choice to protect his company, but with so many employees depending on him, he felt he had no other option back then. So, as his daughter, I wanted to at least make you happy, Jack." Hearing this, Jack fell silent, looking down. With tears in his eyes, Mr. Eastwood said, "If I had known this, I would have stopped your marriage with all my might. Maybe my brother wouldn't have died wrongfully. When I was in elementary school, I was falsely accused of taking John's eraser, which led to me being unable to attend school. The unjust way Anna's father died felt painfully close to my own experience." As various emotions of anger and sadness welled up inside me, I stared sharply at Jack. He suddenly looked away from everyone, his voice trembling as he spoke. "Yes, I did want revenge, but I never thought it would lead to his death. I wanted to hurt him mentally, but I never imagined it would come to this. When I realized what I had done was irreversible, I was scared of myself for a moment, but at that point, I felt there was no turning back. I thought I had to see it through to the end, and I let my heart be consumed by evil." Soon, the sound of his sobbing began to echo in the meeting room. Mr. Eastwood watched with a pained expression, and Anna continued to cry silently. Later, based on Jack's confession, we discovered he had illegally altered the company's registry to list himself as CEO. Therefore, Mr. Eastwood and I sued him for the crime of forgery. The company was then handed over to the previous president's eldest son, Anna's brother, who had been overseas, just as stated in the will. A month later, during the afternoon, Anna, Lily, and I were shopping at a nearby mall. Anna planned to return to Eastwood Electrical once Lily was a bit older, intending to support her brother, the new CEO. As we walked and talked, the three of us came across a children's event happening in front of us. Looking closely, I saw that the event involved drawing a family portrait and submitting it to the staff to receive a raffle ticket. "I want to do that." Lily enthusiastically ran towards the event. Grabbing some paper and colored pencils, she began to draw something dynamically. Watching her from behind, Anna smiled and said, "That drawing is probably you, David." When she draws me, she always picks my favorite color pink, but today, she's using blue. Really? I guess she associates blue with me since I often wear blue ties and pajamas. As we chatted, Lily finished her drawing and turned to us with a big smile, holding up her artwork. "Done. Dave." On the paper she handed me, there was a large blue potato person and what seemed to be flowers at the end of stick-like arms. I took it, stared at it intently, and patted her hair while praising her, saying, "That's amazing." Anna peered over my shoulder and laughed. I knew it. When we handed the drawing to the staff, they seemed to assume I was her father. I didn't correct them and played along, securing the raffle ticket. They asked if it was a drawing of her dad, and I reflexively said yes. Do kids usually call their dads Dave? Well, some families do call each other by their names. It's not that strange. That's true. I really like how Lily adorably calls me Dave. Even if I actually became her dad, I'd want her to keep calling me that. I said this to Anna, then suddenly realized what I had implied. What was I thinking, talking about becoming her dad when we weren't even dating yet? Worried that I might have made her uncomfortable, I glanced at her. She was blushing and mumbled something under her breath. With all the noise around us, I couldn't hear her clearly and asked, "What is it?" But she seemed embarrassed and quickly changed the subject. A week later, in the evening, Mr. and Mrs. Eastwood kindly offered to watch Lily and said, "You should take a break for a change sometimes." So Anna left Lily with them for a few hours, and she and I went out for dinner together. She arrived at the chic restaurant wearing a sleek dress, a striking contrast to her usual practical clothes, which highlighted her beauty even more. Looking back, this might be the first time we've met alone. Realizing this made me nervous, and I found myself thirstier than usual, repeatedly ordering drinks. Thanks to you and my uncle, I heard Jack's true feelings and got the company back. I feel so relieved. I wouldn't have had the courage to go to court alone. I'm really grateful to have had you both. Her face looked brighter and more peaceful than before. Seeing her like this, I felt a renewed sense of fulfillment in my work as a lawyer. Although the long hours and hard work remained unchanged, Mr. Eastwood's influence had raised my profile within the firm. I was praised by my colleagues for handling the case well and felt more determined than ever to approach each case diligently. Then I thought, I really want to get revenge on Jack. As I was lost in a happy daze, she suddenly, and slightly tipsy, said. Startled by her mention of revenge, I instinctively asked, "What? Did you say revenge?" "Yes, that's right." Despite everything he did, he went on to be happy with his new girlfriend. It's unforgivable. So, after thinking it over, I decided I would get revenge on him. That's quite a dangerous proposition. I mean, considering his past actions, it's understandable, but how exactly do you plan to get revenge? I asked nervously. She chuckled mischievously and suddenly grabbed one of my hands tightly. By the three of us, me, Lily, and you, Dave, being as happy as we can be, I want him to deeply regret leaving such a great woman. After all the pain I've been through, I feel like I was meant to meet someone wonderful like you. So, I hope you feel the same way. She said this, looking up at me with tear-filled eyes. Blushing, I gently squeezed her hand back. Anna, have you had too much to drink? At that moment, I realized that the word she had mumbled a week ago at the shopping center was Dave. It was probably because I had mentioned how much I liked and found it adorable when Lily called me that. I don't want you to forget, so I'll say it again when you're sober, but I really do like you, Anna. Your kind words about Jack touched my heart. And I realized I want to spend my life with you. So let's make sure the three of us become so happy that everyone envies us. When I said that and smiled at her, she also smiled happily and said, yes.